I have spent a lot of time in South America since 1991. That was the first time I went as a backpacker. And then I have conducted a lot of research in Brazil, in Argentina, Uruguay, inside prisons, children with the conflict with law in Uruguay. I wrote my PhD thesis on the child labor and children's rights situation in Paraguay. So I have a lot of experience, and I've also done work for the International Monetary Fund in Nicaragua, the Ministry of Family. So I have a lot of different aspects I could talk about. And these countries, most of them except for Brazil, they speak the same language. But if you have spent enough time, you will find out that they're pretty different. And you have to be aware. You have to be almost an expert on cultural competence. And you have to be socially aware when you interact with the people, because otherwise you can make a lot of enemies, or you won't gain access to the material you're trying to access. So it's a lot about preparing, getting the right people to talk to. I talk about key informants. I try to pinpoint people I want to meet, and then I hope for them to get me in contact with other people. And it has actually, I've been very successful in that regard. I've been inside places where most people have not, inside prisons. A couple of weeks ago I was in a favela, which is a ghetto in Rio de Janeiro. I was escorted by local people, and I felt very safe. Most people, they won't gain access to those places. So I guess over time I have developed some sort of a social skill or cultural competence that I'm not really aware of. But you do that if you travel a lot, I guess, and that's an advantage if you want to access the data.
Do you have maybe a personal story of maybe a time when you made a mistake or violated the social etiquette?
Well, I can tell you one mistake I made, and that was February 19th, 2010, so that was only a couple of weeks ago. I flew into Rio. I was extremely well prepared and hungry. So I went to the hotel, I checked in, and of course working with crime and justice, I didn't trust the hotel and the safety box. I brought all my valuables to the street because I was going to a local restaurant to get some food. I had been in Rio for 30 minutes when I witnessed a violent arrest of a young boy. We have a military police officer with an AK-47, bulletproof vest, all the attributes of a macho man, arresting a young boy approximately 13 years of age. I took a photo of the arrest, and I was so caught up in the moment that I followed them. And when he dragged this poor boy, and he was handcuffed, and he dragged him to another street, I followed, and I took another photo, and the flash went off. And before I knew it, there was a man all dressed in black. It was like from a Hollywood movie. Came up to me and started swearing, saying really bad words. And the police officer with the young boy that he arrested, yes, he dragged the boy across the street, and he came up to me and started to scream what I was doing, who the hell I was, and why I was taking photos, etc. And of course I realized that was a bad mistake. You don't do that in Rio. And especially taking into account that police officers belong to the middle class. They have all the attributes which make people look up to them, but still they make $450 a month, which makes them not being able to sustain their lifestyle and belonging to the middle class and sending their kids to private schools. So most police officers, they have extra jobs, they work long days in order to sustain their lifestyle. They have 2, 3, 4, maybe even extra jobs. And so when you find them on the streets, they are overworked, they're tired, they're irritated, and they're bitter. And you don't want to mess with people like that. at least not if they're carrying guns and have the right to arrest you. So to cut a long story short, I had to show him my camera, and it was a very frightening situation. I had to ensure him that I never took any photos, and I told him I'm a tourist. That's what we do, we take photos. And thank God the menu was in Swedish, so I managed to erase all the photos to format the memory stick before he knew it. And of course he couldn't read Swedish, so he wasn't aware of what I was doing. And then I showed him what I had in my camera. I had to take a few photos, and then I showed him that there's nothing in my camera. And he let me go after 10-15 minutes. And of course, it was very exciting, and I study crime, and that's what I do. But that was a big mistake of me. I feel ashamed afterwards, but still, it's so prevalent in that society. Arrests of young people and the disrespect for young black males, especially black males, because there's a racial component to the whole story. That I just felt that I had to take a photo, but who am I, a guest in the country, to actually violate their integrity? So I feel ashamed about it, but I did it, and